Good evening. You're watching Focus Today Thailand. And here are tonight's top stories. We all know Thanathorn is the leader of the Future Forward Party. But he is not simply a Thai politician, he also has another identity that most of us do not know. He is working for the boss. Thanathorn is, without doubt, the most famous politician of the year. But this politician is not really doing what is best for Thailand. And the boss that he works for is America. His aim is to help America control Thailand. Maybe you don't know him as well as you think you do. Today we will reveal the true colors of Thanathorn. This Facebook group, Royalist Marketplace Dalad Luang, has 2 million members. Let's check these 3 admins out. They have 2 groups. These 3 people are the admins. This bitch is from Hong Kong. Kim is a family name in Hong Kong, but it is not a common name. His profile says he is from Thailand. But I doubt that. He doesn't dare upload a single photo of him. He doesn't have a Thai name. And, he didn't post anything written in Thai. Sawadee Cup. Korn Kachar. We just showed you 3 admins' profiles. Their leader, Michelle Kim, is from Hong Kong. The second admin, Justin, is not a Thai either. The third admin, Pavan, is from Thailand, but he works for that bitch and hates his country. So none of them loves Thailand. Pavan was attending a meeting with Joshua. Pavan is a supporter of Thorn. Needless to say, they are on the same page. Now let's see what this whole group is about. What do they do on a daily basis? Pay attention to group rule number 4. As you can see from the group rules, these 3 admins, or should I call them losers, take aim at Rama X. These losers' main job is to cook up stories, rumors and fake news about Rama X in this group. At first, I was like, don't these guys have anything better to do? When I found out later that's mostly what they do, I was like, okay. They turned this group into a club of mobilizing public opinion against Rama X. Their goal is clear: to smear, defame and demonize His Majesty, to convince people that Rama X is a villain, so that more and more Thai people would support the overthrow of Rama X. Here is another Facebook group created by Hong Kong people. Hong Kong Young Expats. They also post rumors about Rama X in their group. Admin of Hong Kong Young Expats group, Vincent Chan, likes to post all kinds of rumors. This Facebook page is managed by a Hong Kong person who is a huge fan/supporter of Trump. Why does Hong Kong always have something to do with the Thai royal family? Why are Hong Kong people always involved in activities to overthrow Rama X? Those who oppose His Majesty, including Thorn, have close ties to Hong Kong. Why? Because Joshua has been creating turmoil and political chaos since last year with the support of the United States. Now he has become an expert at it. Technically, Thanathorn and Joshua are co-workers, since they work for the same boss. So their boss was like, hey, you know what? Joshua, you have lots of experience. Why don't you teach Thanathorn a thing or two about overthrowing a government? So Joshua said to Thanathorn, dude, watch and learn. And just like that, Hong Kong people became teachers of Thai people and began to share their experience. Thanathorn himself has close ties to Hong Kong and to Joshua. Thanathorn went to Hong Kong to meet Joshua on October 5, 2019. Why did he go to Hong Kong? First of all, Joshua has been blacklisted by Thailand and banned from entering our country. And secondly, if they had talked to each other online, Thanathorn would have left evidence of committing treason. Evidence such as text and voice messages that are sent from his phone. Thanathorn is a cautious man. He wouldn't risk being detected. Of course, he would choose to meet Joshua in person to discuss these sensitive topics. On October 5, 2019, Thanathorn and Joshua met each other in Hong Kong. On October 14, 2020, the first demonstration occurred in Thailand. A year later, what had happened in Hong Kong is now happening in Thailand. It's almost like the demonstrations in Hong Kong were copied into Thailand. This is no coincidence. Luckily, journalists were able to dig up some dirt on Thanathorn and his buddy Joshua. Let's take a look. Thanathorn and his buddy Joshua Wong. This is the boss who they work for. Thanathorn and Joshua's boss. This is a relationships chart which shows Thanathorn and Joshua are working for the same boss. Secret exposed. Joshua Wong has an American background. 3 years ago the US picked Joshua to be their puppet and made him a political superstar in Hong Kong through various means. Don lag Joshua Wong Yun Yun Hua, Mai Mi Kayu Baung Lung, Dad Niku. He did everything for his own benefit, not for the country. He didn't do it because he wanted Thailand to be a better place. Are Nakward Mai? That's just bullshit. On the surface, the demonstration in Thailand is a democratic movement initiated by a group of people who hope Thailand to be better. But it is actually a game of thrones in which people controlled by foreign forces want to win the Iron Throne.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
Thai people should be aware of their plot. There is a foreign power influencing Thailand. Foreign power colluded with people like Thanathorn and they started plotting against the Ramadan a long time ago. They came up with elaborate plans. These people started to make preparations in order to mess up Thailand while we had no idea that bad things were going to happen. From spreading rumors, mobilizing public opinion, inciting hatred behind the scenes, to organizing and commanding demonstrations on the front line, foreign power is in control. Returning to the Middle East failed, the United States tried to disrupt Hong Kong and destroy China's economy. However, what America didn't expect was that they would fail again in Hong Kong. On June 30, 2020, China passed a bill, the Hong Kong National Security Law. On the same day, Hong Kong Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, gave a speech on the bill.
Madam President, as Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, I welcome this opportunity to state our position on the enactment of national security legislation for the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. National security is invariably under the purview of the central authorities, be it in China or any other countries. In all countries, the power to legislate on national security rests solely with the central government. Hong Kong is an inalienable part of China, a special administrative region enjoying a high degree of autonomy which comes directly under the central government. As an exceptional arrangement under the policy of one country, two systems, the basic law governing the two special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau obliges the SAR to enact local legislation on its own to safeguard national security. Macau has successfully completed this task in 2009. Hong Kong, after a failed attempt in 2003, has not been able to fulfill its constitutional duty. For the sake of not only the 7.5 million Hong Kong residents, but also the 1.4 billion people in the Chinese mainland, the question of how long we could tolerate such a gaping hole in national security has to be asked and answered. Legislation to safeguard national security is now urgently needed. Since last June, Hong Kong has been traumatized by escalating violence fanned by external forces. The threats of terrorist acts posed by illegal possession of explosives and firearms, and the horrible manners faced by innocent Hong Kong people were recapped by my senior police colleague Oscar Kwok and a prominent businesswoman Pansy Ho, respectively, when they spoke at this forum in March this year and September last year. Once rated as one of safest cities in the world, security and stability have become relevant concerns. During this period, groups advocating Hong Kong independence and self-determination incited protesters, very often radicalized young people, to desecrate and burn the national flag, vandalize the national emblem, and storm the central government's office in Hong Kong. Further, some local politicians proclaimed that they would paralyze the Hong Kong SAR government, while others campaigned for foreign governments to interfere in Hong Kong's affairs, or even to impose sanctions on Hong Kong. No central government could turn a blind eye to such threats to sovereignty and national security, as well as risks of subversion of state power. All in all, these acts have crossed the one-country red line and called for resolute action. As the highest organ of state power in China, the National People's Congress has the constitutional power and the duty to enact national security legislation for the Hong Kong SAR. The national law to be enacted has taken into account Hong Kong's actual situation and will be applied in Hong Kong by way of promulgation in accordance with the Basic Law. The legislation aims to prevent, curb, and punish acts of secession, subversion of state power, terrorist activities, and collusion with foreign or external forces to endanger national security. These crimes will be clearly defined in the law. It will only target an extremely small minority of people who have breached the law, while the life and property, basic rights and freedoms of the overwhelming majority of Hong Kong residents will be protected. The legislation upholds important legal principles such as presumption of innocence and protection of the rights of the suspect. It will have no retrospective effect. except in rare specified situations, the Hong Kong SAR shall exercise jurisdiction over offences under the law. Investigation, prosecution, and adjudication will be undertaken by the Hong Kong Police and the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR government and the independent judiciary, including that of final adjudication. The law will not affect Hong Kong's renowned judicial independence. It will not affect legitimate rights and freedoms of individuals, which are protected under the Basic Law and relevant international covenants applied to Hong Kong. They include, among others, the freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly, of demonstration, and of procession. In short, the legislation will not undermine one country, two systems, and Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy. Hong Kong is a free and diversified society. We respect differences in opinion and strive on reaching consensus. But the one country principle is non-negotiable and could not be compromised, as without one country, two systems will stand on shaky ground and Hong Kong's stability and prosperity will be at risk. For those foreign governments or politicians raising objections to the legislation, one could only lament the double standards they are adopting. All those countries which have pointed their fingers at China have their own national security legislation in place. We could think of no valid reason why China alone should be inhibited from enacting national security legislation to protect every corner of its territory and all of its nationals. Madam President, when I took office 3 years ago, I pledged to implement the one country, two systems policy, uphold the Basic Law, defend the rule of law, and promote a deep and positive relationship between the central government and the Hong Kong SAR. Despite the escalating tensions in society in recent years, I remain hopeful that with full conviction in one country, two systems, and upon implementation of the national security legislation, Hong Kong will ride out the political storm since last June and emerge stronger with stability restored. I and the Hong Kong SAR government are determined to capitalize on our strengths, harness the opportunities presented by a country's development, and provide Hong Kong people with brighter prospects. I urge the international community to respect our country's right to safeguard national security and Hong Kong people's aspirations for stability and harmony. Thank you.
The Hong Kong Special Administrative Region shall enact laws to prohibit any acts of treason, secession, sedition, subversion and theft of state secrets. Prohibit foreign political organizations from conducting political activities in Hong Kong. Prohibit Hong Kong people from establishing contacts with foreign political organizations. The riots in Hong Kong began in June 2019, and it was not until June 2020 that China began to officially intervene. During this year, Beijing just ignored the riots in Hong Kong completely, as if they were blind and the riots were invisible. No matter how the rioters caused trouble, Beijing did not care. It turned out that China was waiting. What was China waiting for? China was waiting for those in the background to reveal their identity. Because Beijing always had the I don't care attitude towards the riots, the foreign forces got anxious. Foreign forces were thinking that, if Beijing didn't care about some parades, then let's destroy public property. As a result, China still didn't care. Foreign forces got anxious, so they let the mob break into the government. China still didn't care. Foreign forces then provided weapons and ammunition to have the mob harm the police. Still, Beijing was like, whatever. So foreign forces turned the mobs into lunatics, the mobs smashed things, beat the police, set fires everywhere, and used explosives everywhere. Foreign forces hoped to turn Hong Kong into a crazy society so that China would have sent troops to suppress it. As long as the Chinese army harms citizens, they will have the opportunity to blame China and use it as an excuse to overthrow the government. China let the mobs keep partying for a year. During this time, China has kept a list of foreign powers personnel by continuously collecting information. It turns out that some English teachers, university professors, white-collar workers in the financial industry, and airline executives are actually CIA intelligence agents. These professions are just a disguise for them. In June, word had it that the U.S. consulate in Hong Kong was preparing to sell a property. Some people believed that this was a signal that U.S. spies had begun to leave Hong Kong. Beijing has enacted the law. Beijing meant to warn those who wanted to overthrow the government that now they would no longer tolerate it. If you make trouble again, we will deal with you in accordance with the law. Therefore, Joshua Wong can no longer cause trouble, and foreign forces dare not continue to overthrow the government. But these people get paid. They can't just stop working and still get paid. The United States cannot give these people money in vain. Since these people are dependent on the United States, they must continue to work for the United States. Hong Kong's intelligence center needs to be transferred, and those who tried to overthrow the Hong Kong government also need to continue working. What to do? It didn't work out in the Middle East and they failed in Hong Kong. The United States turned its attention to Southeast Asia. But which country? Let's see. Bingo. Thailand has a king. It's the 21st century. Every country should be like the United States. If there is a king in a country, it means that country is outdated and backward. This alone gives the United States a reason to interfere in Thailand's internal affairs.